want the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans, and you're listening to America's Voice Now. Saturday morning, 6:05. Got a lot of topic matter today. You know, I got a call the other day from Vince Finelli from USA Prepares. He asked me to come on to his program, and we were talking a little bit about the kind of topics we wanted to cover. And he said, well, what would you like to talk about? And I said, Vince, if I had a machine gun that could fire a cyclic rate of 1,000 rounds per minute, I couldn't shoot all the ammunition these knuckleheads are giving us. And the simple truth is, folks, that there's so much out there to cover. If I did a 3-hour show every day, we couldn't cover it. At least if we wanted to cover it with any semblance of depth. Otherwise, we'd just become like the rest of the Ministry of Propaganda or the other major talk show hosts out there who throw a lot of rocks but don't actually ever offer any kind of solutions or drive any kind of activity. And that's the difference between what we do and what everyone else does. Not only do we use the information that's out there to evaluate it, to educate ourselves and inform ourselves as to what's going on in the world around us, but we then have an obligation to inform others around us, and then, like reasoning, rational human beings, when we see a problem, we must correct it. Once we recognize the problem exists, we have an obligation to take the next step, which is corrective action. And therein lies the phrase, educate, inform, motivate, and activate. Now, for whatever reason, apparently 33 million Egyptians took action. Unlike Americans, they decided that they'd had enough of tyranny and ousted their own personal tyrant. The problem is that Americans, for whatever reason, have become soft, fat, dumb, and happy. No one seems to be interested in taking the right steps necessary to oust our own personal traitor. And he is exactly that. Make no mistake about the man who is occupying the White House. He's not an American citizen. We know that to be a fact. Or at least the evidence would lead that way, because he doesn't have a birth certificate that's legitimate, and he's forged a draft card. And on top of that, he has numerous times, and from numerous sources, indicated that he was not born here. And that's a violation of our Constitution. And it's a big one. But to make matters worse, it's only one of a long string of violative steps that he's taken to subvert and strip our Constitution of its value and its power. He's now calling out the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood, apparently his brother-in-arms, certainly not ours, has been ousted from their management role. And I find it offensive that our president, who sits on one hand and runs a nation that is supposed to operate on the rule of law and with the will of the people as the primary motivation, I find it insulting that he would back a group who, one, are known and delegated terrorists, delineated terrorists, but also try to rule their own people as a theocracy by coercion, force, and violence. And when they get tossed out on their ear, he stands up to support them. Not exactly the American ideal. And they, it's indicative of who he is. I don't believe that he is a Western-styled Christian, although he professes to be. And frankly, I'm not one of these people that really pays a whole lot of attention to what someone says anyway about their religious beliefs. I'll tell you why. Their actions generally speak for their beliefs. I've heard a lot of people tell me that they're this or that over the years. And then when you watch their behavior and watch their actions, they turn out to be something else. Actions speak louder than words, and they oftentimes tell us the true nature of a person. In this case, the guy that we've got sitting in our seat of power is a usurper. Frankly, he's a traitor. He's got dictatorial ideals. He perceives himself to be above all of us, and that we owe him some deference or allegiance. And the real problem is that isn't the role of a president. I mean, when you look at the role that George Washington took, you have to recognize that the vast differences between Washington and Obama are so stark, they're like completely opposite ends of the color spectrum. And I don't mean skin color. Washington was a wealthy landowner, very wealthy. And he owned huge areas of land. I mean, we're talking about land that was the size of states. Literally. And yet he stepped out of retirement. Well, first of all, before he even got into retirement, he stepped into the role where he put all of that at risk for the benefit of the American people as a general whole. And remember that, in just short of 1800, there were only, 6 million people on the continent, at least Western people. There were plenty of indigenous American Indians. But there were no teeming millions of 300 million people. There was only about 6 million. And out of that, by the way, 1/5 of them were slaves. And we can get into the dichotomy of how people could vote for freedom on one hand, but support slavery on the other. And I'll grant you that was a dichotomy and a failing of our founders on a personal level. But they clearly saw the future of the nation and how that issue of race should play. When they drafted the language that said all men are created equal. This guy, on the other hand, thinks that we're all equal to serve him and his own personal ambition and power. And I've got a problem with that. I've got a problem with the fact that most of America doesn't, or is either unwilling or incapable of recognizing the danger that this man represents. He is a clear and present exigent, as in emergency, danger to our republic. Yet most of America is more interested in what's going on over there at the duck reality show, or what's going on, who's winning the America's Next Top Supermodel, with a cast so dysfunctional that you could write a comedy book about them. Or they're capturing their information and news from the official Ministry of Propaganda, the 6 or 7 large organizations that run the news, which if you follow all of their ownership back, they're all pretty much owned by the same group or groups. And our nation is failing rapidly. Article came out the other day that 47% of adults have full-time jobs. 47%. Everyone else is either unemployed or relegated to having 2 part-time jobs, or perhaps 3, to keep up. They make a big splash about 195,000 jobs created, or whatever the heck it is. Oh, it beats economist expectations. How good we're doing. Yeah, but they're not talking about the 200,000 jobs that are lost. So really, we're at a net zero number. And out of the 47, or out of the 195,000 jobs created, they're all low-paying service operation jobs. There's no career path there. These are jobs that college-educated, and in many cases, seasoned and experienced individuals in the work world are accepting, because it's either that or declare bankruptcy and fall onto dependence on the government. Oh, wait a second. That was the intent all along, wasn't it? If you're unwilling to recognize the obvious, that's on you. You can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequence of ignoring reality. I'm Mike Evans, so we'll be back in just a moment.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
I, honest to God, don't have an idea on if the media knows that they're in the bag. They must, right? Or they're really looking at this presidency and thinking this is working. I'm fascinated by that, and I can't tell you how far I am from an answer, because nobody over there is going to rat themselves. I almost wish that somebody would just come out, somebody I respected, and say, yeah, of course we're in the bag.
Weekdays from 9 till noon is the Dennis Miller Zone on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Blue Ways was a perfect example of federal abuse of authority. But there are literally millions of examples out there of that same type of abuse. You know, for the record, and I'm gonna point you guys to a website, or for prcnews.org, because I want you to understand where we are in this depth of depravity that is exhibited to us by the federal government. And Obama, through his America's Outdoors initiative. Doreen was gracious enough to do some homework and found something very disturbing that relates directly to this. If you look at our website and our Facebook, on our Facebook page right now, I'll get it on the website later on. There is an article there by Doreen that is called Pandora's Box in the White River Watershed. And the reason this is so important is because she's found another MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that specifically, by the way, incorporates the Blueways, among many others. And this is, again, goes to this concept of the taking of things that don't belong to them. The Memorandum of Understanding is signed by the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Wildlife Services, Bureau of, get this one, Reclamation, Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, National Resources Conservation Service, Forest Service, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the Army Corps of Engineers. And it's for the coordination of landscape and watershed scale conservation demonstration areas. You know, when you read through these, I've lived in the corporate business arena for many, many years. And I've seen stuff written by people in the corporate world that is a lot of mealy-mouthed nonsense. They blather on and on and on for page after page after page and actually never say anything because they're acting like pseudo-intellectuals and it's all it's all self-boosting or ego-centric. They write a lot of mealy-mouthed nonsense trying to explain in flowery language whatever it is they're trying to say, which could have taken a couple of sentences, but, they got to wrap it up in a way so that it makes it look like they're so intellectual. Well, this thing is a perfect example of that. The difference between the corporate world and the political world is that in politics, they do it with the purpose of obfuscation. Big difference. In the corporate world, they're not trying to hide anything. They just don't have the power of articulation. They can't get their statement out without waxing poetic and preening their own intellectual feathers. Government, on the other hand, has that same problem, but they use those layers of preened feathers to cover their true intent. And they wrap it up with a lot of things that they can twist later, phrases, paragraphs, concepts, names, so that they can commit verbicide at a later date. And the premise behind that is real simple. We pass this thing, whatever that thing is, and we make it broad in its scope, vast in its depth, and then we leave ourselves so much gray that we can make it mean anything just by picking out a specific paragraph that everyone signed on to back in 2010 or 11 or whatever, and then further defining that, but now without any rules. You see, if they took a memorandum of understanding like this and they put their real true intent in it, even some of the signatories would be like, wow, are you sure we have the authority to do that? So what they do is they do it with a broad brush. They paint everything with this brush so that no one can really understand what the true intent is. Then after everyone's signed on to it, like the Blue Ways, then they later on take it and they say, okay, so they all agreed to this oversight of watershed. So let's define what oversight of watershed means. And now they come in with the knife. Because everybody's already signed off on it. Now they get targeted. And now they define whatever it was that their theory was, or whatever their concept was, and they start to really put teeth to it. They write rules. They write regulations. And the people who signed it originally might look back at that document a year, 2, 3, 10, 20 years later and say, wow, I don't think that's really what we meant. But they've been duped and they've been played. Just like you have been duped and played.
So we write the memorandum of understanding first, and then we write the definitions later on.
Absolutely. And the idea is real simple. A memorandum of understanding is just a group of us who are kind of agreeing upon the same overarching goals. Okay, but that's an outline. I mean, Tom Clancy starts a book with an outline. And you generally know that the outline starts with man is high up in government and saves the world at the end. But all the details don't come in later. Then as he starts to flesh it out, he outlines the chapters. Man gets introduced. We learn all about him. Crisis presents itself, chapter 2. Chapter 3, he goes through the machinations of trying to discover what's the underlying reason for the crisis. Chapter 4, he identifies the wrongdoer and seeks him out. Chapter 5, he gets smacked around. Chapter 6, he comes back and wins the fight. Chapter 7, he saves the world. And then there's all the sublayers in between the chapters about how this guy gets killed and that thing happens. And you see, what they're doing here is they're drawing this whole approach that is couched with malicious intent, but they can't really unveil their true motives because people would not agree to it. So you leave it vague and broad. And this is a 7-page memorandum of understanding.
Mike, how much input do you think non-governmental organizations have into this?
All of it. Because it says right here, for coordination of landscape and watershed scale conservation demonstration areas. Now, excuse me, I'm not a demonstration area, nor a demonstration participant. I am not here to dance on a little stage to show you how the sheeple can be manipulated and ruled.
You might be a demonstrator when it comes time to march on the Capitol.
Well, at the current rate that America is moving, I don't know that that will ever get to march on the Capitol unless it's in a straight line in chains. Because America doesn't have men anymore. They have these metrosexuals who are more worried about how their hair is primped and what kind of car they're driving and how better they look than their neighbor than they are in actually making sure they've got the freedom and the liberty to retain all of that at the end of the day.
You shouldn't talk about Ed like that.
I've never seen Ed primp.
He doesn't even know what the word means.
I've seen him lick his thumb and smooth his eyebrows.
So, in other words, we can write this memorandum of understanding, which we believe means one thing, and then at a later date, okay, if we want to utilize it, okay, for whatever purposes we've come up with in the meantime, we just change the entire definition section of the document and then use it for whatever we want.
Yeah, it's called verbicide. So here's what verbicide is. It's when you take words that mean one thing and suddenly add definitions or manipulate the definition to make it mean something else. We'll be right back.
News Radio, I'm Paul Stevens. At least 30 dead in Egypt as clashes continue over a change in leadership.
This is supporters of the deposed Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi took to the streets to protest what some here are calling a military coup against the unpopular but still democratically elected Muslim Brotherhood figure.
Fox's Greg Palacott. Mohamed Morsi's Islamist supporters vowing to continue their opposition against the Egyptian military. Accused NSA leaker Edward Snowden could find safe harbor in Latin America.
He's welcome in Venezuela. President Nicolas Maduro offering humanitarian asylum to the man who exposed the U.S. government's secret program of telephone and email surveillance.
Fox Radio's Ron Flatter. Snowden also with an asylum offer from Nicaragua. 6 people are dead, including 5 members of the same family, after a house fire in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The death toll rising when a mother and her daughter died of injuries suffered in that blaze. Fox News. We report, you decide.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Wits End Classic Barbershop, who is the sponsor of our telephone lines this morning. They're located on the square in West Plains. It's Wits End Classic Barbershop. Thanks to our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. You can find them on the web at westplainspawn.com. They can be reached at 417-256-3000, and they're located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. 400 guns undercover. Pizza Hut, our friends down there on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch menu with salad, pizza, and pasta. Excellent opportunity for you to have a great lunch and eat well and something tasty. Our friends over at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. Telephone 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance can be found on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. My friend Brian there can be reached at 870-492-4030. They're located a half mile east of Walmart at 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's right off the square in West Plains at 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. And my friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction. If you're considering doing remodeling, custom or new construction, or anything light commercial, give Bill a call and have him bid on your project at 293-0116.
I had this illness that really made me powerless over alcohol, and that insisted that I got drunk. And so I got drunk. It doesn't have anything to do with trying to control it. An alcoholic who picks up the first drink will pick up the second drink. I can't say to anyone, no, don't drink. But I can say that when you decide you don't want to drink, come to AA. The door to AA is always open. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 107.1 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
From the Point Weather Center, for the rest of the morning, clearing skies, low 62. Plenty of sunshine as we head to the day, the high 86. It'll be partly cloudy tonight, low 64. Mostly sunny tomorrow, the high 90. Monday's going to be mostly sunny day, high 90. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
So the real problem with these MOUs is the way in which they write them and define them. They outline a purpose and a background. Then they clarify the authority under which they are doing this, which is not the kind of thing that I consider an authority. I want to see a constitutional authority. Here's what their authority says. This agreement is based on existing authorities. Okay, so defining which existing authorities you're basing this on. By the way, none of them will have a constitutional foundation, including the President's memorandum of April 16th, 2010, quote, a 21st century strategy for America's great outdoors. 75 Federal Register. And various authorities within the context of the laws or regulations governing specific programs administered by the agencies. What a bunch of mealy-mouthed, double-talking HS. Basically what they're saying is that they have authority based on authority they unilaterally gave themselves earlier. And so they're building on the shoulders of this authority they gave themselves to give themselves even more, and using that as the excuse and the precedent.
And you're right, that is hog.
I mean, and then they make findings, the statement of mutual benefit and interest. Listen to their statement on mutual benefit of interest, because it's short. The signatory federal partners' mission includes many overlapping and complementary conservation interests. That's not the federal government's job.
Federal partners, notice, okay? And this is benefits that accrue to agencies and agencies and agencies. Where's the benefit to the citizens and the taxpayers?
Right. What this is stating is that by signing on to this, you're guaranteed to receive money. That's what it says. And authority and power to grow your mission creep agency. Creep, by the way, being the key operative word there, as in oozing and as in mean-spirited and nasty. The signatory federal partners' mission include many overlapping and complementary conservation interests. Yes, like all about you and how many people you can hire and how you can grow your own ego at the expense of the American people and taxpayer and their rights. Accordingly, there is great potential for mutual benefit from enhanced cooperation and synergies, especially in the area of large landscape conservation, where alignment of multiple resources will result in strategic and effective conservation outcomes. You see, this is all cover. You see, this is written by a professional liar. And a professional liar who, if he came right out and said, if we get together as a gang, we can do pretty much whatever we want. That should be their statement of mutual benefit and interest. You see, instead of 5 lines of mealy-mouthed double-talk and diatribe and diarrhea of the mouth and pen, they could have just said, the signatory federal partners will benefit themselves and their agencies and obtain mutual benefit as a result of enhanced spending and delegated authority. And that will result in a strategic and effective personal benefit as the outcome.
And a $17 billion federal deficit.
But they don't care about the deficit because they know that it doesn't matter. And here's why. You see, everybody wonders, well, how can they do this when they know we've got so little money? I'm going to tell you why. They know it doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because when it comes time to pay the piper, they know that we are all going to be living under a totalitarian regime. And the bankers who own them will use that as the excuse to foreclose on vast pieces of real estate, both vacant and occupied, to say that's how we're getting our money back. We're owning the factories. We're owning the vast ranches. We're taking the choicest pieces of land. Don't you get it? They are using our nation as collateral.
Is there an authority section in there, Mike?
Yeah, I just read it to you. It's a shame. This agreement is based on existing authorities, including the President's Memorandum of April 16, 2010, a 21st century strategy for America's great outdoors, and various authorities within the context of the laws or regulations governing specific programs administered by the agencies.
But they don't, like in Blue Ways, they name 16 USC 1246 B2, and then you drill down.
They're just blanket classifying it under Tyrant Obama's 21st century strategy for America's great outdoors.
Just like a shotgun blast out there. We'll
right.
get it all.
Right.
Sweet.
So this gives them the right to do anything. And they mention the Blue Ways. I mean, these include ecological systems. Well, here's what it says. There are numerous examples of agencies and local partners working collaboratively to conserve large landscapes, including watersheds and coastal ecosystems. These include whole ecological systems, such as the Everglades, Chesapeake Bay, longleaf pine forests in the southeast, and the California Bay Delta, as well as federal agencies engaging in state and local landscape conservation initiatives, such as Keeping Maine's Forests, as forests, and the Blackfoot Challenge in the Crown of the Continent. In addition, there are programmatic initiatives that support large-scale landscape and watershed collaboration, including landscape conservation cooperatives, the Army Corps of Engineers Integrated Water Management Strategy, the Natural Resource Conservation Services Landscape Initiative, and the Department of the Interior National Blue Ways System.
They're not talking about the taxes that come along with that.
No, now they're just using examples here, as well as the National Fish Habitat Action Plan and the Land and Water Conservation Fund. The interagency teams formalized pursuant to this MOU will not supplant any of these ongoing efforts, but will complement and, as appropriate, coordinate with them to advance shared objectives. The shared objective, ladies and gentlemen, let's stop pretending there's an elephant not standing on our feet. Look, the elephant in the room is called Agenda freaking 21. The goal is to provide for vast swaths of the United States of America, some 60 to 70%, to be isolated as migratory animal pathways. Here's the problem with that. You are in the way of the migration path. And so the goal is to take huge percentages of America's population, ram them into these small areas where you can be monitored, kept, observed, and manipulated. Coerced, worked, taxed, beaten, oppressed, and you can feed the elitists who will live in splendor.
But we don't call it slavery.
They will live in splendor in what used to be the Grand Ozarks. Oh, how about that castle being built out in Ozark? They'll build these magnificent places where they can come and spend their leisure days. This will be like the old days of feudal kings. It's not a new principle and concept, you people. I don't know why no one sees it. There will be lords, there will be ladies, there will be dukes, there will be earls, there will be a king, and there will be an awful lot of peasants who are basically allowed to sharecrop, keep enough to feed themselves, some meager sustenance, while everyone else grows fat on the labor and the wealth of those workers. This doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that Obama's initiative for America's great outdoors, the 21st century agenda for conservation and preservation, conserves and preserves your land for his use. The only problem with the whole scheme is you're on it. They talk about coordinating taxpayer money. Who the hell are they to determine how taxpayer money is going to be used to suspend your own property ownership through coercion, manipulation, and forced police power of eminent domain? I'm getting so tired of tyranny, people. I gotta tell you, it's reached a level where the tyranny is so endemic and systemic that I'm not sure that at this point the patient can be saved. You see, the cancer is we'll be back in a minute.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington and West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
Kim Commando, aka the Digital Goddess, keeps you plugged in with a daily feature. Kim Commando's Digital Minute. This segment keeps you informed with what's going on in the technology world, along with new tips and tricks to use at home to improve those computer skills. Catch Commando at 7:22 a.m. during Cooper & Company on the Ozark's Best News Talk. If the feature has you craving more, join Kim, the Digital Goddess, Saturdays from noon to 3 on the Ozark's Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
One of the secrets to success in heirloom gardening is keeping quality seed. Learn the basics of saving seeds July 11th at 6 p.m. at the Charles Ferguson Building in downtown Willow Springs. An expert from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds will present information and will be available to answer questions. Mark your calendar for July 11th, 6 p.m. at the Charles Ferguson Building in downtown Willow Springs.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
We're talking off air, and if you're watching this, I'm so flippin' hot right now. You see, here's the problem. These scumbag traitors all over Washington, all over the nation, have so demoralized, defeated, abused, oppressed, and beaten and browbeaten Americans that we don't even realize it when they've bent us over a barrel and are flailing us even further. They don't have the authority to do any of this crap that they do. They steal authority and steal power by giving it to themselves. It is extra unconstitutional. Not extra unconstitutional, extra constitutional and unconstitutional. And frankly, America needs to rise up, grab these scumbags by the scruff of the neck, drag them out, fire them, eject them out of their operating procedure, and make sure that they can never operate in that facility again. Like you would take a criminal and remove him from society, and then they take criminals and they make it a life sentence even though you've done your time. These scumbags operate with absolute impunity, and nobody flippin' cares. They need to be taken out, removed from a position of authority, and made to operate for the remainder of their natural lives with no access back into the magic freaking circle. In other words, you can never operate within government, for government, any contractor, otherwise. And I don't care if you think it's unconstitutionally unfair. That's just too flippin' bad. You see, the problem is that unless we take the cancer cell and cut it, slice it, remove it, burn it, and kill it, it will come back. And America, unless you're willing to do that, damn it. We will wake up in our nation slaves of these scumbags who have stolen all that our fathers and founders and grandfathers, grandmothers, granduncles died for. You see, what you don't understand is you're giving up this entire nation to tyranny. And you're laying down while they step on your face and drive it into the mud so that they don't get any dirt on their shoes. You are nothing more than a walking mat, a means to an end, to be used in any way, shape, or form that advances their position, agenda, ego, financial benefit, whatever their particular motivation of tyranny is. And frankly, America, I'm getting tired of talking to you about it and listening and watching the empty, dull, stupidity-stricken faces. It's like the masks are on. Nobody can even express surprise or frustration or, I mean, where is the emotion? Where's the passion? This guy yells too much. You know what? I don't care. If you yelled a little bit, we wouldn't be here in the first damn place. You see, America has gone to the dogs. And everybody knows it, and nobody's willing to speak up about it. Because you've been told all your life, oh, never be aggressive. No. Don't raise your voice. Don't be angry. That's not healthy for you. It makes people frightened of you. I hope you're scared of me. I hope they're scared of me. Because you know what? I'm not going to stop until my boots are pointed skyward. And if every other American just had the brass to say the same thing, we'd own this nation again. But without a bunch of monsters running it. You're food for them. Don't you get it? This is just another symptom, but it's one of so many. Just like a cancer has symptoms of weight loss, it also has symptoms of shortness of breath. It also has a symptom of an irregular heartbeat. It also has a symptom of lack of appetite. Don't you get it? This is just one symptom of the cancer. Ultimately, the cancer is killing us. And you are asleep at the switch. Yes, all of you. Me too. All of us. I don't care if you don't like the fact that somebody has got to raise the alarm using a loud voice and effusive and aggressive language to accomplish the task. Someone must. And frankly, the only reason I do this is because I've been sitting here for my entire 50 years waiting for somebody else to get up and do it. But there ain't a man out there in the nation who has the brass to stand up and just say what needs to be said. Well, I'm going to do it within the rules. The hell with your rules! There are no rules. They don't follow them. You cannot. There are no rules in war. And unlike that idiot who wrote something into the local quill letter to the editor, we are at war. And you better recognize it for what it is. When your enemy seeks to destroy you, you fight back with everything, anything, any way you can. If you value your own survival, you will do what it takes to win. And it's time that America stopped sitting around grooming their manginas and did something about it. I don't know what you're going to wait for. But at some point in time, they're going to just lock this thing down so tight, you're not going to have an opportunity to do anything. Your days of opportunity to resist will be done. Frankly, it's at the point where I am so frustrated with the lack of interest on the part of America to actually do anything. I mean, look, we don't even ask for much. Pick up the damn phone, call some stupid fat marshmallow senator up on Capitol Hill and beg him to stop lashing you. And we can't even get you to do that. For crimini's sake, people. This is your life. The lives of your kids. It's your money. It's your property. It's your house, your farm, your apartment building. What more motivation do you want? You are your only advocate. No one is going to step up and act as your attorney and defend you in the face of this abuse and tyranny. But you. And if you just consistently want to sit around and wait, the train will hit you. You will turn into a grease spot on the front end of that box. And it will be over. I don't give a damn if you don't like the fact that I hoot and holler and yell. The truth of the matter was, if anybody had any brass, you'd all be doing it too. Oh, I get it. Different strokes, different folks. Some people do it smoother. Some people do it better. There's lots of people out there that can speak a lot more eloquently than I. I don't really care. If that's your whole interest, you can be the low information American and go look at Kim Kardashian's derriere. If you're not interested in defending this nation, do me a favor, don't listen. When the audience drops to zero, I'll still stand here and I'll scream from the rooftops. I'm tired of fighting for a group of people that don't appear to care. When I watch this Mark Dice guy who goes out there and he puts out a video where he walks down a beach and he asks people about what nation did we win our independence from in 1976, and people say China. I mean, please, you've got to be kidding me. They can't even name. Nobody corrects them and says, wait a minute, it wasn't 1976, it was 1776, and it was the British. Even when he says 1776, they can't name it. Am I really putting my life, my future, my financial aspects, and my own personal freedom at risk for that? We'll be back in a minute.